We are now live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending today's meeting of the Santa Rosa City School Board. Opening the meeting Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. And we will start our meeting with a territorial land acknowledgement. Joining us is Reynalda Joy Cruz. Looks like she's on her way over. Welcome, Reynalda.
Hello.
Reynalda is one of our own. She's a product of Santa Rosa City Schools. She's a Lakota, Pomo, Chicana, Aztec member of Round Valley Indian Reservation. She's also a powerhouse youth leader and activist. Ms. Cruz grew up being the only child in attendance at community meetings and protests alongside her mother, standing up for her people and her culture. As she grew older, she followed in her mother's activist footsteps, and in her freshman year at Santa Rosa High, she started Native Club, a first of its kind cultural enrichment group at the school. Ms. Cruz has continued her involvement by bringing her skills and perspectives to the California Rural Indian Health Board, where she's a youth member. She's also served on the Susquehanna Intertribal Council and Sonoma County Indian Health Project's Auntie and Uncle program. We could not be more thrilled to have one of our own, the amazing former student that from our district with us this evening for a land acknowledgement. I'm going to turn it over to you, Reynalda.
Thank you so much. Today we acknowledge that we gather tonight on the territorial traditional land of the Pomo people in Santa Rosa and the Coast Miwok people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Santa Rosa City Schools will continue to honor the past and the present for the future of this land and the future of our school community. We respect you, and with gratitude, thank you so much, Reynalda. All right, now if everyone could please rise, unmute your microphones for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome back, y'all. Spring break just kind of flew by, but here we are in the final stretch before the end of the school year. If you're a marathon runner, spring break is kind of like the fueling station at mile 20. So the good news is that we've already run 20 miles, but the bad news is we still have 6 more miles to go. So hang in there and everyone goo up, drink some sports drink, get some electrolytes, use a Tiger Balm, whatever you need to. We can get through this. So to ground us this evening, let's enjoy springtime. It's the start of growing season. So I hope that after a week off, we're all maybe a little rested, ready for a little bit more growing. An inspirational quote that we can reflect on tonight is from Anita Kazan. Spring will come and so will happiness. Hold on, life will get warmer. All right, we're going to move on to the agenda. Item C3, report of actions taken in closed session. During the closed session, the board voted 7-0 to authorize the district superintendent or designee to adopt resolution number 2021-2243 to notify one administrator that they may be released or reassigned from their position for the 2022-23 school year pursuant to Education Code 44951. Additionally, during closed session, the board approved with a vote of 7-0 recommendation on student expulsion case number 21-2215. Agenda item C4, items considered in closed session for action in open session. There were none. C5, statements of abstention. Are there statements of abstention tonight from the board? Statements of abstention. Seeing none. Adjustments to the agenda. Board members, are there requests for adjustments to the agenda? I see Superintendent Trunnell, adjustments.
Yes, I would like to request that we pull item F7 for discussion and action from consent.
From consent, yes. Other adjustments, board members? Stephanie?
Yeah, I'd like to pull F4, I believe, for one of the contracts.
Okay, pulling item F4.
It's not contracts.
Am I looking at the wrong one? I might be looking.
F5.
Thank you, F5.
F5, there we go. All right, so we have F5 and F7. Okay. And can we go to the public for adjustments to consent items?
Good evening. If there are any members of the public who would like to talk about an item that's in the F section of the agenda, those items will be pulled for discussion later in the meeting. Would you please raise your hand at this time? F5 and F7 have already been pulled. There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you. Coming back to agenda item C7. Oh, public comment on non-agenda items. Opening it up for the public for comment on non-agenda items.
So once again, if there are any members of the public who'd like to comment on an item that is not on the agenda, please raise your hand at this time. So for example, if you wanted to comment about COVID updates, you would wait until that item comes up later in the agenda, but these are for things that are not on the agenda tonight. And it looks like our first comment is Jill Jackson.
I just wanted to add my voice in yet another way to members of the board. I've written a number of letters. I've spoken directly with Superintendent Trunnell. And my most recent communication with the board was through a letter dated late last February. And thank you, Director Flores and Director Fong, for responding to my note. My particular issue of concern was what we were planning to do with the ESSER money that was specifically allocated to make and ease the transition of some of our students from distance learning back to the regular classroom. And my specific request in my letter and in conversation was the children who are struggling. I know that since I've written that letter, the PD addressed this issue among many school districts in Sonoma County. And I would even say in just the time I've initially raised this issue to now, I would almost say that as great a need exists for children to have more counseling services as academic intervention. I'm still waiting to hear what our district is planning to do. I was very disappointed to read that a response given to at least the paper and quoted was that we have until 2024 to use these monies. And I don't think that that's an adequate response. These children are only in these grades for a very short time, and their needs, if anything, are only going to grow over the period of time passing. I urge you to take up this message and not resort to the same things that we always resort to after school tutoring. Children and teachers are not so very inclined to extend their day, especially not little ones, and even intermediate students as well. And summer school is just not the antidote to what's ailing some of these children. It's not sufficiently remedial to address many of their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment on a non-agenda item is Shelby Pryor.
Good evening. Protest is a powerful thing. Again, I have to continually remind this community what I'm willing to do and what I'm willing to risk in order to go ahead and protest. I've been looking into Mr. Medina's interests in the community, working with his current nonprofits, and I'm interested into wondering how he continues to maintain such an illustrious lifestyle of travel. Don't worry, we have a way to figure that out. It's called public record, and your public records are disturbing. Ms. Dela Cruz, the word on the street is that you also have a nonprofit you're working on. You guys talk about total equality and equity and all these other things and haven't weighed in Mr. Alvarez's cases currently either. You continue to talk about how you represent the Latin community and you think about their interests, but again, we know that's false. You guys continue to work for your own interests to put yourself up on a pedestal above those who are below you. I'm done playing games. I'm done sitting here having to deal with the everyday hustle and bustle of life while you guys sit and get fat on the backs of the hardworking people of this community. As a Black nationalist, I will go ahead and stand in arms with my brothers and sisters who are minorities and continue to keep fighting for those who are not represented here. Los Cien and Hillsburg have already witnessed what I'm willing to do and continue to do until this community wakes up. Mr. Ed Sheffield, thank you for continuing to serve as a minority here. I recognize you and I know you have a hard role to sit in. Ms. Chanel, thank you for your hard work. Everybody else, I don't know much about you, but I'm starting to learn and I'm digging. So if your interests aren't in line with the best interest of this community, don't worry, we're gonna air you out.
Next comment on a non-agenda item is Sheila Walker. Sheila, are you there? All right, we're going to go next to Emma Dunsmore.
Hello, my name is Emma Dunsmore and I'm a first grade teacher at Brook Hill Elementary. I'm calling in because I'm concerned about the changes to the Teacher on Special Assignment or TOSA job description. So this upcoming change is going to eliminate works with students from the TOSA job description, taking away an important support for students at a time when they need small group instruction and intervention more than ever. At Brook Hill, we have come to rely on our TOSA as an essential part of our Walk to Read and intervention program. Due to the pandemic, it is more necessary than ever to have continuous support for our students as we try to catch them up to grade level. These interventions are critical to provide additional academic assistance to help students access their grade level standards, as well as identifying students with special needs. I'm disappointed to see this job description change in a way that is moving our TOSA further from direct instruction and intervention with students, which is the support that is so greatly needed right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's try Ms. Walker again.
Hi, thank you, President Sheffield, members of the board, Superintendent Trunell. I apologize. I was driving and I had to find a place I could pull over. I just wanted to add a comment. The first speaker I did hear, didn't catch her name, but regarding the ESSER funding, she might want to go back to the last two meetings, and you'll see that a lot of the ESSER money is being used to cover budget gaps. For salaries and benefits, millions of dollars. And it's not for additional hires or additional staff. It's covering our existing counselors and our existing different staff members, not all of them, obviously, but there's a lot of money that is being used there so that the budget won't put us in a deficit, or it doesn't technically show a deficit for SRCS schools. But I also wanted to ask the board what happened from the last board meeting regarding the action, or I should say inaction, where hundreds and hundreds of parents stayed on a meeting until, I don't know, 10:30 or later. Could have been 11 o'clock at night, and a lot of students waited up for a decision regarding the alignment with the state of California and masking. And it was very disappointing for hundreds of parents to find out less than 48 hours later that somehow there was a change, yet I don't know why, who really overrides the board, but communication came out and it was very confusing, frustrating, and really, I shouldn't say, I won't say shocking, because, you know, it's kind of like many of us thought we actually had support of the board and that you heard us as parents. And 2 days later, that all went away and the divide grows even farther. So I'm just curious, you know, my student went to school. He's, according to Mrs. Trunell, our superintendent, at that meeting said that students would not be harassed, bullied, disciplined. It was very clear in her explanation to you all that that was the case, but that did not happen to my student. He made it to his first period on March 14th. And he was sent, the teacher communicated to him 8 times that he was incorrect. He had a letter, which I had printed. I had sent an email to the school that my son was not going to wear a mask, but yet he was still sent to the principal's office. And he's wearing a mask ever since then, because his grade was also lowered from that particular class. And, you know, kids want to fit in. So thanks for the action and inaction.
Thank you. Next is Andrea Cordarolo.
Yes, hi. I was actually going to just piggyback off of Sheila's comment. And I was curious as to if the board thought it would be professional, if you will, to maybe explain to the 250 or 300 parents that were on the Zoom meeting regarding the mask choice. I think you all owe an apology to all of the parents. That was very unprofessional. We don't even know what happened. You owe them an explanation. So if the SRTA overrides the school board, then we all need to know what happened, because I don't know if that's a violation of the Brown Act, because the school board voted to align with the state, and then you guys went around and were overruled by the SRTA. So if the teachers union is going to be running the school district, then we have a problem, because what is the purpose of the school board of trustees, right? I mean, honestly, what is the purpose of the school board of trustees if we can't even put our faith in you as parents to advocate for our students and our families and our children? And I mean, I can't believe that none of you are sitting there and none of you have even apologized to any of the 250 parents. That's unacceptable. You should be embarrassed, honestly. It's really disheartening that all of those kids came on, and then at 11:30 at night you voted and it passed. Some kids were even crying. It's a big deal. And now you're sweeping it under the rug. Like, oh, nothing happened. We just voted on it, but you know what? The SRTA, they overruled us. Very disappointed. And it was in the Press Democrat. So maybe you should explain to all of the parents and all the students, and each and every one of you should be apologizing for what happened that night. That was very disgusting to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Holly Kumb.
Hi, my name is Holly Kumb. I'm also a first grade teacher at Brook Hill Elementary, and I just wanted to also comment on the news that we recently received that our site TOSA, our teacher on special assignment, is they're being asked to move to a position that's more of, from what we understand, downtown and not directly giving instruction, reading instruction to students. And I'm very concerned about that because I just want to share some information about our intervention at Brook Hill. So our TOSA has facilitated 44 SST meetings, and there's 6 more scheduled for April and May. There are 30 referred students who have never even had SST, so they're just waiting in the wings to see if they possibly may need special ed services to make up for all the lost time during distance learning. And there have been 47 new Tier 2 referrals this year. Our TOSA is currently monitoring 73 intensive students' academics, which is over 20% of our entire student body. 17 additional students have shown progress and moved from intensive to strategic this past year. At our school, our total Tier 2, Tier 3 students, so academics, counseling, migrant ed, homeless, etc., is about 46%. And I honestly don't know what our sites are going to do without this position full time. It seems that when our students need more than ever, we're giving them less. And I understand that not all sites have these TOSAs because the positions haven't been filled for whatever reason. And I want to know, what is the district's plan for providing these supports to our students who need them more than ever? It just seems like we're expected to do more with less each year. And we are just swimming in new books, new materials, new, science materials, and all of that's great. But what we really need are more staff to help our students. And I can't possibly see doing more than what I'm doing right now as a classroom teacher. And so losing this position is, I believe, a mistake and detrimental to our schools. I think all sites need to have a designated teacher on special assignment to help with leading the intervention program.
Thank you, Ms. Kumb. Next is Kate Whelan.
Hi, I also wanted to address the change on the masking kind of from a different perspective and ask the board for an explanation, because we haven't received one and responses to emails have been non-existent. The only assumption that we can make is this was an SRTA move, and there is a process, and you guys voted, and then it changed without explanation. And that leaves us no trust in what is supposed to be the parent seat of the board, which is our trustees. None whatsoever to even follow the process. This largely is going to affect far more than Santa Rosa City Schools. We have a superintendent, county superintendent position, and anyone that's being endorsed by the teachers unions is not being received well by many parents. It has a lot of ripple effect. Please give us the information that we are asking for and deserve.
Thank you. Next is Natalie Goodrich.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you for each who on the board and that participate in all of these calls. I know that none of you have an easy job right now, and I know in our home, we always support school staff, teachers, administrators to the nth degree. My husband and I are never the squeaky wheel. But in the last 2 years, we have found ourselves having to fight for things like our kids getting back in school in person. when they've been out of school for way too long, and giving our kids the option to wear masks. I was on the last call. I've been on many of these calls in the last year. And again, I know that none of you have easy jobs, but I also know that all of us are fighting for our students. I know that every single parent and person that we see on screen is here for the students. That is our most important job. And I feel that there is, by the way that things have been handled most recently, that things are very divided. And there is a lot of trust that has been lost between very supportive parents and people that are in paid positions. That being said, I would love to see the board and the administrative staff come out with a policy that will stand the test of time with masks. I know that now what we're in
Ms. Goodrich, your audio is breaking up. I'm not sure if you can do anything about that.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I would love to see the board come up with something in writing that guarantees our students to know that they will not be in masks, out of masks, in masks, and out of masks. I think what we as adults don't understand is how damaging this is to our kids, and that we have to move past the fear of the virus. No one wants anyone to get sick, but we have to move into the real world and allow our kids to be kids. So I would like to see a future plan from this board that lets students know that they will not be in trouble come 3 months down the road if some people are getting COVID again, or, we have to learn how to live with this and move past it. And I think for parents and students, we need to know that our kids can have the option to wear masks and that they won't be yelled at by teachers. They won't be sent to the principal's office, and they can do what is best for them. That is what the choice, it should be a choice. You wear it or
Ms. Goodrich, I'm sorry, your time is up. We added a little extra time since we had the audio, but you had your 3 minutes. And next comment is Deanna Oliveras.
Hi, excuse my voice. I'm getting over the tail end of a sinus infection. I mimic what the other people said about the whole masking thing and the meeting with the teachers union and the shaming of children. My kids also came home saying they felt guilty to take off their mask because their teacher told them that it goes against their union contract. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I heard a lot of other things from my kids. But you guys already know how I feel about this because I call in every time. But what I wanted to let you guys know is I feel like if you all, the superintendent and the school board, if you did a better job, like really trying 100 or 110% at being transparent, it would alleviate a lot of the frustration between parents, faculty, staff members, principals, school board, because there's things that you could do to not let us get so frustrated as parents. I know that I'm never going to agree with everything you guys vote on. I'm not going to agree with everything. But if I feel that you guys are making the best decision with the resources you have and you're transparent, then I can respectfully disagree with you. But when you say one thing and then go behind closed doors and do another, and then send out an email to a principal, and every principal has a different interpretation of it, and every union representative on that site has a different interpretation, and every teacher has a different interpretation, it makes it look very shady. It makes us not trust you. And again, you could maybe have not done anything shady, but you guys don't go above and beyond to make it crystal clear. And it's really disheartening because I feel like, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate you have to do that in this day and age, but if a few of you went and did that, it would alleviate so much of the frustration and the arguments. For instance, I saw Ms. Terrell and another administrator at the lowrider event here over the weekend with the SRPD. That's amazing, right? But the fact that Santa Rosa City schools are going and partnering with SRPD, but yet we can't have school resource officers. You guys said that minorities are scared of officers. I saw a lot of minorities there that day. So it makes it look like, well, it's not the school district, it's the school board that doesn't want SROs on school campuses. Or if that's the case, why would all those young minorities show up to support that event? It's not transparent. It looks like you guys are only on your own personal agenda, not the agenda of the community. And I really hope you work better toward that this next year.
Thank you. President Sheffield, there are no other hands raised.
Thank you, Beth. And thank you all who spoke with your issues and your concerns. We are going to move on to the D part of the agenda, our reports. D1, California School Employee Association report. Do we have President Mary Lehman with us?
Yes, she's on her way over.
Thank you, Adina. Hello, President Lehman. Welcome. We have you on mute. If you could unmute, please.
Yes, here we go. Yes. Okay. Good evening, President Sheffield, Superintendent Tranel, Board of Trustees, student board member, and the community. I want to thank our members who came tonight and spoke up or just listened. It is the CSEA participation in these meetings that will improve the lives of our members, students, and our community. We need to continue to improve communication and cooperation among us. That means students, staff, teachers, administrators with our board. It is our members, our non-teaching staff that stayed on the front lines from day one during the COVID pandemic. They were the lowest paid, the least respected, and worked the hardest. We as a district have to look at a better way to recruit and retain qualified staff. I'm a new president and I'm learning about our members. The members are still concerned about the school safety. Some workers have to share bathroom keys. Teachers have received extra compensation for completing required mandated reporter training, while classified workers were not offered the same compensation or similar compensation. The district's priority number 3 is to hire and retain qualified employees, but the salary schedule is below Sonoma County. So I just ask if we continue to have cooperation and communication. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lehman. Agenda item D2, Santa Rosa Teacher Association report. We'd welcome over President Howell. Do we have President Howell with us?
Yes, sorry, my mouse is frozen. She's on her way over.
Welcome, President Howell.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, President Sheffield and Superintendent Tranel, members of the board. Good to be here. I had a nice, relaxing spring break that included a very inspiring trip to Auburn, California, with Superintendent Tranel and Deputy Superintendent Edson. I think it's the first time I've seen you in person in a couple of years, and a lot of teachers, counselors, and administrators from Ridgeway High School. Oh, and Lori Fong, sorry, didn't mean to leave you out. But we had a really great trip, and it was inspiring to see a model for Ridgeway High School that we could emulate and perhaps talk. Hopefully this board will be talking about using parts of that model to improve our services for our students at Ridgeway High School, to make it really an exemplary continuation high school, so that our students can continue to thrive at Ridgeway and get what they need to get them ready for post-graduation life, which is what Confluence High School seems to be all about. It's not just getting them graduated, but getting them graduated with a plan for what's next. So that was inspiring, and I hope to continue to work with this really great group of people to try to keep that moving forward. I want to say thank you for recognizing School Library Month, and want to recognize the lone librarian in our district, Steve Irving, who works out of the district office and supports all of the libraries at all of the sites. As a librarian myself, I appreciate Library Month and all librarians of the community. With a lack of librarians in our district, our students are very reliant upon youth librarians in the Sonoma County Public Libraries of Santa Rosa. And I want to thank all of them as well, as they have interacted with teachers throughout our district to help make sure that our students have access to the public library and get books in their hands. To move on, I want to talk a little bit about hiring season. We're coming up to that point where we're going to be noticing some retirements and some vacancies in our district, and hopefully we can get those filled. A number of months ago, we brought to the administration some changes that SRTA is requesting in the salary placement guidelines. This is a board policy, a board document. And we have made a few movements forward, but we'd like to see some changes to those guidelines that would encourage teachers to come into Santa Rosa City Schools and be able to bring more of their years of experience with them, so that they're not taking pay cuts to come work for us. So we'd really like the board to re-look at that document and see what changes could be made to try to widen the window for new applicants into Santa Rosa. And I'm going to end with a hope that this is the last time that you hear my presidential report over Zoom. And that next time we do this, I'll be standing in front of you in a room together. So thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, President Howell. Agenda item D3, Superintendent Report. Superintendent Trunell.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Great. So today marks day 138 of school for elementary and 137 for secondary schools. There are a few things that I wanted to share tonight that I pre-planned, and so a couple of the items you may have heard from other speakers. First, I too wanted to give a shout out to the staff and administration of Ridgeway High School, who spent a day during their spring break with myself, Director Fong, Director Flores, other district leadership and SRTA leadership, as we visited a continuation high school in Auburn to learn how they are serving students with a lens on utilizing internships with community organizations to strengthen the school to career pipeline. So kudos that this is positive work that we are going to be doing together and moving forward. And then I also wanted to highlight the event on Saturday with the city. So our district and others were invited by the City of Santa Rosa's Office of Community Engagement, which sponsored an event this past Saturday down at City Hall, along with the Sonoma County Lowrider Council. A feature of the event was the reveal of the Mary Lou Lowrider Patrol Car, named in honor of Mary Lou Armour, a police detective with the Santa Rosa Police Department who died in 2020 due to complications with COVID-19. City events like these help community organizations like school districts to be visible, to talk with families, and promote open positions we are hiring for. And we had the pleasure of interacting with many community members, talking with some of them about our open positions and then also talking about how to register children for our school district. So it was a positive event and very well attended, as we saw. Also, I had the pleasure of attending the Indian Education public meeting yesterday afternoon, and very much appreciated hearing the feedback from our families and community members during that event. And then today we had the opportunity to present a workshop on operationalizing mental health in schools in Sacramento earlier today. I want to thank Dr. Armstrong, Kesa Enemark, and Eric Lofchi for co-presenting and being leaders in this work. Our workshop was well attended. There was standing room only and was very well received. The last thing that I will just mention is that 2 reminders, April 8th and April 15th are both non-school days. And with that, I will hand it back over to you, President Sheffield.
Thank you, Superintendent Trunell. We will move on to agenda item D4, President's Report. I have no report this evening. Agenda item D5, board member reports. Are there reports from board members? I saw Trustee Fong's hand raised.
Thank you, President Sheffield. Good evening, everybody. 2 things. I just want to reiterate the visit that so many folks took to Auburn, a continuation high school named Confluence up there. And I was so impressed because it was a vacation day. I think we compensated people, but still it was a day off that they went up there and took the entire day to be there. And so many teachers and counselors from Ridgeway, along with their principal and Catherine Howell and other union leadership and our district leadership, who really, here's the thing. This was an amazing time because it's a different model. It's really transformational. And teachers were interested, counselors, everybody was interested in how we work together to support kids in a different way, in the 21st century. So I'm really buoyed by that. And Trustee Flores might have something else to say about it, but kudos to everybody who went and putting heads together to figure out how to serve kids in different ways, in new ways, and add on to what we already do. And then just quickly, I got a chance to visit Lewis Early Learning Academy today at the old Lewis School over on Lewis Road, I think. And that is an amazing place. We are turning this very old school. I think the plaque over the school says 1922. And probably some grandparents have been there going to school. It serves 0 to 3 and then 3 to 5. And it serves and assesses kids deaf and hard of hearing and speech and language and other things that were kids needing IEPs. The very, very youngest ones are very most vulnerable ones. So we've got lots of people taking care of those little kiddos, and they're adorable. Also, we are partnering there with Head Start. We're partnering with Cap Sonoma. So many programs under our roof. So I really appreciate how Santa Rosa City Schools is partnering with these agencies and how we are providing countywide for our youngest, most vulnerable kids. So kudos to Principal Janelle Plaque, I think it is. So that was the visit, and that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Fong. Trustee McCormick.
Yeah, I just have 2 quick things. One is I'm very excited about agenda item D7, which is coming up a couple items down, about our Maiden Santa Rosa Foundation report. So stay tuned for that. And then I also just want to give a super big shout out to Lobo Nation, who raised over $158,000 on their virtual fiesta. It was well put together, well done, so much support from the community and alum, and it was just fantastic to be a part of it. So anyways, just wanted a huge shout out to Elsie Ellen for their hard work. Fundraisers like that are very difficult, and kudos to everybody who supported and everybody who made that event possible.
Bravo, Lobos. Thank you, Trustee McCormick. Trustee Manieri.
Yeah, I wanted to share a couple of really exciting events that are taking place at CCLA, actually starting today and then continuing on for the next couple of days in celebration of Cesar Chavez Day. So today, the middle schoolers are participating in a community building day to create some community art projects that are then going to be displayed tomorrow in the annex. And there's going to be a series of presentations happening during the day. But then on Friday, they are inviting the community to a really amazing celebration from 1 to 5 p.m. on campus with games, food, face painting, and a lot more. So I just wanted to share that on behalf of the CCLA community. I think it's really awesome that they're coordinating this for the community. And then I also wanted to just report out that I attended a couple of events within the last couple of weeks at Elsie Allen High School. I was able to go to the baseball game, and that it was really amazing to see staff and to see the kids out on the field and playing. So just wanted to thank Principal Albavera for the invitation to be there because I really enjoyed it. And then I also attended the Mecha, the Elsie Allen High School Noche de Poesía y Justicia. Big shout out to Mr. Tomas Salinas and Manny Morales from MBOP for helping to coordinate that with the students. It was really touching, and there's just so much talent at Elsie Allen High School that I hope everyone gets a chance to see one day. But it was really a really amazing event. And likewise, I wanted to also just congratulate the Elsie Allen Foundation for the amazing fiesta. I think I read that over $150,000 were raised, and that is going to directly support our students. And so I just really wanted to congratulate Herman and Vince and everyone behind the scenes who made that happen. And then lastly, I wanted to also share that this Saturday at Elsie Allen High School, there's going to be a Roseland Youth Wellness Fair for teens ages 12 to 18 from 1 to 4 p.m. in the quad. So this is meant to really be an event for youth in Roseland who can come to Elsie Allen High School, get some resources, participate in some fun activities, and get some food. So just wanted to share that is another event that's taking place, and that is in coordination with the city's violence prevention partnership, Elsie Allen High School, and Latino service providers. And so we hope that youth can attend this event. And then just really quickly, I also wanted to correct myself, President Sheffield. I meant to pull F8, not the contracts. I was looking at the wrong agenda.
Yeah, I saw that, and we will adjust when we get to the F items.
Awesome, thank you. That is all.
Thank you. A lot of really good things going on, Trustee Manieri. Trustee Flores.
I'll be sure I just want to reiterate what Trustee Fong and Superintendent Turnell mentioned about our visit to Auburn to see a new way of doing continuation school. That's it. And I just want to give a shout out to CCLA for inviting me to Loteria Night. That was the first in-person event that they had. I felt so welcomed. It was so nice to see everyone around. Although I did wait, for a couple hours for 2 tacos, but that's okay. It was fun. So that's it. That's my report.
But they were really good tacos.
They were really good because I was starving by the time I got them.
Well, I'm so glad that Trustee Flores, you and Trustee Fong got to join Superintendent Turnell and others in Auburn. It sounds like it really was a wonderful and educational experience. Lots of things to bring back. We have Trustee De La Cruz with their hand raised.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of attending the Santa Rosa High School Spring Concert led by the wonderful Mr. Decker. It was a combination of the middle school, the concert band, and the symphonic band all together. A true awesome night. So thank you so much to the music program at Santa Rosa High School and for being such wonderful hosts at Santa Rosa High.
Thank you, Trustee De La Cruz. All right, other board members? Moving on to D6, CSBA report. Are we anything to report yet? Are we there?
We're not there yet, but I do have a couple of things to report. The results will come out, I heard, by the first week of April. But there are a couple of bills that I just like the board to know. There is a co-sponsored bill by CSBA, Assembly Bill 2034. Which would expand access to school-based health and mental health services by encouraging more schools to participate in the local education agency Medi-Cal billing option, which allows schools to bill directly for Medi-Cal services provided by mental health professionals in the schools and to bill for more eligible services. The bill would also increase funding by reforming the Department of Health Services. And then I also like to talk a little bit about the CSBA is in full support of AB 1607, which provides greater fiscal stability for schools, districts facing declining enrollment by calculating the ADA or the average daily attendance based on the 3-year average. So just keep an eye on those because I think we'll hear more about those in the near future. And that is my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Flores. All right, moving on to agenda item D7, we have Lisa Alexander, Executive Director of Maiden Sonoma Foundation, to give us a special presentation of the foundation. If we could bring her over.
She's on her way.
Great. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. Nice to see
Hi, good evening. Thank you, President Sheffield and Superintendent Trinnell and Board of Trustees. I'm very pleased to be with you this evening. My name is Lisa Alexander, and I'm the newly minted Executive Director for Maiden Santa Rosa Foundation. And Adina, if you will go ahead and let me share my screen, I can go ahead and begin.
Yes, you should have permissions currently.
Gotcha. Thank you. Sorry, here we go. Okay, so thank you. And I wanted to go ahead and begin with the history and timeline from 2019 through present. So back in October of 2019, the Santa Rosa City School Board Ad Hoc Committee reported on the viability of forming the foundation. And in November, the board voted on an MOU for fiscal sponsor management. And in 2020, the Maiden Santa Rosa Foundation board members focused on recruitment and the 501c3 process. And in April of 2021, our board members engaged in a strategic planning process. And fast forward to December of 2021, when we received our 501c3 designation. And then in January, our board of directors voted in our first executive director, me. And in February, the Maiden Santa Rosa Foundation formally launched. And just a few weeks ago, we presented our first grant to the Lewis Early Learning Academy.
Lisa, are you sharing your screen with us? I don't see a presentation.
Oh, my goodness. I thought that I was. Let me go back out. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
So let me come back in here and see what I'm doing wrong. Share. Sorry. So
That's
sorry.
all right. Here we are.
Okay.
Technology.
I knew this would happen to me this evening too. Okay, so let me, sorry. I'm sorry here. Of course, I'm having network issues, but can you still hear me?
Yes.
Lisa, it looks like your LinkedIn is being pulled up. And now your Facebook. Maybe you could stop sharing.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you, but I don't think you're showing the screen, your presentation screen. You're showing
I'm so
your,
sorry.
That's
That's
okay.
all right.
Maybe you can stop sharing and then have your presentation up and then share your screen.
I'm so sorry. Having such an issue.
No need to apologize. This is technology. This is what we
It
do.
is, and the thing that I was, just having a complete conniption fit earlier today about. But I'm going to try here.
Well, Lisa, while you're working on that, I'll just share with
I'm
the
so
board
sorry.
that
Yes, thank you.
at Lewis Education Early Learning Academy, evidence of that grant was in the front. It looked really beautiful. A lot of new planting and wood chips, and it looked very nice. So kudos to Principal Platt.
I am absolutely so sorry. My presentation will now not load.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, we can still take a verbal presentation from you on how things are going. We move on. That's what we do.
Yes, thank you. And I had such a nice presentation too.
Don't worry,
So,
you're going to be back.
We will make sure that we get it downloaded so that it's a part of the minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wanted to go through the history and just sort of bring you up to speed to where we are today. And I wanted to introduce you to our board of directors who really, the foundation is led by an impressive board. And I'll go ahead and share that, later on. And then I just really wanted to talk about our grant request process and our grant categories and introducing our first grant this year, this month. And I had just a really wonderful presentation. But anyway, let me just condense by saying that we awarded our first grant just this month to the Lewis Early Learning Academy for a campus beautification project. And I'll be going with some of our board members next week for their peace pole presentation, and we'll see their beautiful landscaping. We have 5 grant requests that we're currently evaluating. And again, I wish I could share those all with you. And I wanted to just talk a bit about our funding and, sort of our snapshot of where we are right now. And so, as you know, we were provided with the seed funds of $152,000 to begin the foundation. And we just currently begun what we're calling our inaugural investor partner campaign. So we've developed a list of businesses that we're meeting with to build awareness and do appeals with. And we're excited to say that Bank of Marin is our first investment partner at the $10,000 level. And I've just did a grant request with the Sonoma County Vintners Foundation for $10,000. I'm doing other grant research and such. And Sonoma Clean Power has just voiced their interest in doing an annual Sonoma Clean Power scholarship for STEM programs. So we're building a little bit of momentum. And I'm very excited about where we are, just having launched in February. And I really want you to see the presentation and see, where we are and what we're doing. And so I hope when it's downloaded, you'll all be able to take a look at it.
Absolutely. Well, this is really exciting with Bank of Marin already on board in just a matter of a couple of months, and the vintners. And I think you'd mentioned the scholarship interest with Sonoma Clean Power, something that I hope we're pursuing. That would be a really great addition to all the work that you guys are doing.
Thank
and
you.
I'd like to say that we really are picking up momentum, and Lisa has really kind of ignited us and got this momentum going. And we have an extraordinary board that we're still building right now. But it is very exciting. I can't wait to see what the future holds. And we're just getting off the ground this year, but we're really looking forward to having some events in person in the next year and big things to come. So I hope, Lisa, we will welcome you back, presentation and all, because I know you worked really hard on it. And but it is an honor to be a part of that board. And I'm there not only as a community supporter, but also as representative of this board on that board, and is really exciting, and we look forward to reporting out more in the future.
Thank you, Jill.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, and congratulations on the success. Looking forward to seeing the presentation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone, we're going to pause briefly for an interpreter switch, and then we'll move on with the agenda.
Thank you, President Sheffield. We're all set. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to the E items of the agenda, or discussion action items. We'll start with agenda item E1, action item, public board meeting via teleconference AB 361. The board will consider the continuance of conducting public meetings virtually, including the use of a hybrid model as allowed in AB 361. Superintendent Trunell, turning it over to you.
Thank you, President Sheffield, members of the board, our staff and community. I bring forward this item tonight for the board's consideration. Some things that I wanted to point out for the board. First is based on the questions that came last time around the non-mention of the hybrid model. I have made sure to include as part of the quick summary that we are also addressing the hybrid model through this item. I received and consulted with our legal team, and in order for us to offer the hybrid model, meaning that there will be a virtual option, the board must continue to vote every 30 days on AB 361 in order to make that possible. So what this would mean is we could do in person. It also means and allows for the option for the virtual for attendees. So we would have to continue, if we wanted to do a hybrid model, we would have to continue to vote every 30 days on AB 361 in order to do so. If the board chooses not to do that, then we would be in person only without the virtual option for attendees. And with that, I will hand it back to you, President Sheffield.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Trunell, for that clarification. Questions from the board? I see Trustee Medina's hand raised.
Yes, thank you. So I think just to clarify, if in the long term, we wanted to continue to allow the public to participate virtually, past the AB 361 deadline, at that point, we would need the state to change the law to just permanently allow this without the constant voting?
That is correct. Right now, this law extends to 2024, January 1st of 2024. So if you wanted to go beyond that, the law would have to change.
Thank you.
Trustee Flores?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. So if we pass this, it's either virtually or hybrid. So, so is that it? I mean, we're not picking hybrid. We're doing either. It could be either in the next 30 days from now.
That is correct. And that's for the board to discuss this evening about what you would like to do next. I do have some additional details based on the questions of the board.
Okay, so okay, got it. Thank you.
Further questions from the board? Okay. We'll go to public comment on agenda item E1.
If there are any members of the public who would like to comment on E1, please raise your hand. There are no hands raised.
All right, bringing it back to the board for discussion. Okay, Trustee McCormick.
Superintendent Trunell, can you, I know we talked a bit about this last time, but can you just remind us what resources we would have available to us to run the hybrid model?
Yes, so I'll talk about that in two veins. The first is if we were to host a meeting in district, what that would mean. And so we do have the equipment necessary. We have purchased the equipment necessary to provide the opportunity to have people in real time view you as a board in action during a board meeting with the appropriate audio equipment necessary in order to be able to hear clearly during that process. So we do have the equipment ready to go. And so that's if we were to host it in district somewhere, one of our schools perhaps, or one of our facilities. If the board was interested in going back to the chambers at City Hall, I do have some additional information from the city manager. So what we have learned is that the city is upgrading their technology in the chambers. And so therefore, the chambers will not be available. They are not planning to use the chambers either during the month of April for those technology upgrades to occur. We did speak about a date later than April, which would take us to May 11, and they do have us on the calendar if we wanted to go back to the chambers starting May 11th. I will also note a couple of things. One is they are continuing and have decided not to change at this time their COVID protocols. So if we do go to the chambers, say on May 11th, there will still only be an allowance of up to 17 attendees in the audience, with the other protocols for one person at a time at the podium and the upper level with the line outdoors. And so that would be a continuance that we would have to think about. We would have upgraded technology as they're already set for hybrid. The other is that there are some conflicts with dates past May 11th that the city is working on, seeing if they can move some groups who had scheduled to have their meetings on our board meeting night. So there's no guarantee. However, they are working with those entities to see if they can move their meetings in order for us to keep our sort of historical relationship with the city and be able to use the chambers on our nights. But we are confirmed for May 11.
Okay, thank you. And President Sheffield, can I make comments during this time if I don't have a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here are my thoughts on this. My first priority is that we're back in person at City Hall, but it doesn't sound like that is a viable option, having attendees stand outside knowing the timing and the length of these meetings. I just don't think that is a good idea. So until that is addressed or City Hall changes their protocol on that, I don't think that's going to be a good fit for us. But I am strongly in support for us going back in person as soon as possible. But I want to keep in mind is at least through 2024 that we do try and manage the hybrid model just for ease of access for our community, because we've heard a lot of feedback that has really, really helped people's attendance. So if we can do that on one of our facilities and we have the technology to be able to do that, I am strongly in favor of doing that as soon as possible.
And Superintendent Trunell, just to follow up on Trustee McCormick's question about use of our facilities. So, and I know we've had discussion before, we might have, some folks on tonight. If you could share with us what the alternative to City Hall would look like at one of our facilities. And of course, we would have to have safety protocols as well, number of people's, I guess in particular, what I would like to hear what that might look like. Size of the facility and whatnot.
So we have different auditoriums available to us. I think we did test this out at Montgomery, but we would want to be mindful of maybe some centralized locations so that people aren't, traveling too far, if you will. But it would take us looking at maybe a couple of different facilities so that we're not utilizing one facility all the time. And then look at seating that's available there so that we could be very transparent with the community about how many seats that we're able to offer for in-person attendance. You are correct. We would have to follow certain protocols, just making sure that we have PPE and other things on hand sanitizer, et cetera, especially with the sharing of a podium and obviously staff to assist and manage that through the meeting.
Great. Thank you. And Trustee Fong, I thought I saw your hand raised. Was your hand raised? No. Okay. Other board members, questions, discussion, further discussion?
Well, I have further discussions. I was waiting for us to come back to that. Are we going to go to public comments, or did we do that already?
We did that.
We had no comments from the public.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate what Director McCormick mentioned, that we did receive a lot of feedback, right? Before the feedback information, we were pretty, we were given the sort of guidelines and in terms of anecdotal sort of information, but given the fact that we received quite a few surveys back mentioning that hybrid is the way that parents and students want us to go, I think it's important that we start that at this juncture. So, I don't know, I think I have a question. So if we vote yes for this, with direction to our superintendent to start the hybrid model, this is how it's going to work, because if we vote no, it'll go into fully in person, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. So I just want to make sure that we are going towards a place where we can start actually having those face-to-face conversations. And if a hybrid model will give us that, I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
So part of what we're looking at as well, I mean, we had the possibility of May 11th at City Hall. We're looking at a date if we can go into this hybrid model and the use of a facility. We know that we're limited at City Hall to the May 8th, another month plus. And then if we are to do it at one of a school site, then we can do that at a different date. We can, I guess what I'm saying is, should we be setting a date tonight if we choose not to go with the City Hall option?
Correct.
Okay.
So tonight the board would consider whether you wanted to stay virtual or if you wanted to move to a hybrid model. And that would be, I imagine, at our next board meeting, April 13th, as a potential option of when to transition to do that.
Okay, and then we will, and if that were the latter, if that were the direction that we went in, then we would be working to find the location of where we would be meeting, and that would be made public, as soon as we could make it public.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee McCormick?
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve public board meetings via teleconference per AB 361. But our definition of that now is that the board and the presenters will be in person, but we are going to move towards a hybrid model starting April 13th. Did I say that right?
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Trustee McCormick, seconded from Trustee Flores, for the hybrid model on April 13th. All right, we're ready. Oh, I'm sorry, Superintendent Trudeau.
I just wanted to clarify, because in the motion, it was mentioned that board members would be in person.
Board members and presenters.
Right, and so I just want to be sure that everyone understands, because also through the legal team, I was able to clarify that as long as we are working under the lens of AB 361, a board member still has the option to be virtual without posting notices everywhere. So as long as we are still under the lens of AB 361, we also might have some presenters who can't be with us physically in person. So I just wanted to be sure that that was clear.
That should be understood. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Are we okay with the understanding, clarification in the motion? Thank you.
Could you repeat the motion as it is, just to be clear as to what?
I will try. Okay, so I made a motion that we approve the public board meeting via teleconference per AB 361, with the caveat that we will be moving towards a hybrid model where
Period. That's it.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
Because I said some other things, but
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, and then we also, with moving forward, that would be for April 13th.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Right. And since I second that motion, I also second that. That's a friendly amendment. Okay.
All right, we are ready for a vote.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye. All right, the motion passes. Now, this agenda item is not going away, Superintendent Trudeau, correct? Since we are at a hybrid model, we will just repeat authorizing this. Okay. Moving on to agenda item E2, another action item, resolution designating April 2022 as School Library Month. The board will consider approval of resolution number 2021-2241, declaring April as School Library Month in Santa Rosa City Schools. Presenting this evening, we have Dr. Armstrong, Associate Superintendent. I'm turning it over to you.
Great, thank you. And also with me, I have Kelly Dillon and Steve Irving. But good evening, President Sheffield, members of the board, Superintendent Trudeau, members of Santa Rosa City Schools, and guests. My name is Dr. Kimberly Armstrong, Associate Superintendent of Educational Services. And here for your discussion and approval is recognizing the wonderful work that happens in our libraries. And we have Mr. Irving and Ms. Dillon to speak further about the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. Good evening, President Sheffield, Superintendent Trudeau, and members of the board and community.
It is our pleasure tonight to present to you for consideration a resolution declaring April 2022 as School Library Month. President Barack Obama shared that at the moment that we persuade a child, any child, to cross that threshold, that magic threshold into a library, we change their lives forever for the better. It's an enormous force for good. Our school libraries are a central hub on our school campuses, and we are grateful for the opportunity tonight to recognize and honor them, as well as those who work in and support our libraries this evening. With that, I would like to turn it over to Steve Irving, our District Library Media Specialist, to share a few words.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Dr. Armstrong, President Sheffield, and members of the board. National School Library Month is held every April by the American Association of School Libraries. This celebration highlights the valuable role of school libraries, librarians, library technicians, and our instructional material technicians who play a role in transforming lives, strengthening communities through education, technology, information access, and having a safe place to go in our libraries. Technicians have an integral part of getting books out to our students, both when we're in remote learning and when we return to the classroom. We are continuing our work on our strategic plan for all of our school libraries to not only to improve our collections, but to improve the physical space and our online presence for the students. We're excited about this collaborative effort and look forward to bringing the final strategic plan.
Frozen.
Looks like we had another technological issue tonight.
Yes, I don't want to take the words out of his mouth, but because we spoke a little bit before tonight, I do know that he is wanting to just let the community and board know that we look forward to presenting the library strategic plan once it is complete to you later this late summer, early fall.
Okay,
so,
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
There he is.
No, but I heard you finish off that for me. Thank you, Kelly. And I just wanted one more thing. This year's theme for National School Library Month is Connect with Your Library. So I encourage all of you to go seek out a school library and thank them for their unwavering support for our students, teachers, and changing lives for the better. And I want to thank you, the board, for this consideration for this resolution for National School Library Month and your support for all of the school libraries in Santa Rosa City Schools. Thank you, and I turn it back to you for any comments or questions.
All right, questions from members? I see Trustee Fong.
I just wanted to thank Steve for all his work all these years, from the get-go, taking over the whole scene of it all. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
All right, this is an action item, so we'll go to public comment.
If there are any members of the public who would like to comment on item E2, please raise your hand. Shelby Pryor would like to comment.
Finally, you guys have got it right. I'm very happy with this action item. I hope you guys make this pass. Our children are vital in understanding and reading different pieces of literature, even ones I may not agree with. This is such an amazing moment for our children, understanding that the true power comes from the things that are hidden in these books that people have constantly been neglecting from us. I think it's amazing that their literacy is going to go through the roof now. They won't be able to be misled and misguided by anyone if they keep having the access to these books. So that's an amazing thing. Equity and equality is something that everybody on this board understands what it means. It means that we don't have to hold a stake in something, guys. We can all share this knowledge and all come up at the same time. This is a beautiful moment. This is something that I look forward to. These are the conversations that I like having, and I like going ahead and giving you guys some positive feedback, even though I got plenty of negative feedback for you later on in the evening. Thanks so much for doing something great.
Thank you. And there are no other hands raised.
Great, thank you. I love this resolution. I know how much my kids love the library at their school, and I always get a kick out of some of the book selections my fourth grader brings home. Titles like Top Apex Predators and Military Tactics of the Ottoman Empire. I don't know where he's going with that, but he has a plan. Absolutely, I support this resolution. I see Trustee McCormick's hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to enthusiastically make a motion that we approve the resolution designating April 2022 as School Library Month.
Second.
Oh, who got that? Okay. Oh, okay. I'm going to go with Lori. Trustee Fong. So motioned by Trustee McCormick, seconded by Trustee Fong. Ready for a vote?
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Montieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Kelly. We are going to move on to agenda item E3, another action item, approval of a second addendum memorandum of understanding reached with Santa Rosa City Schools and Santa Rosa Teachers Association regarding safe return to school guidelines. The board will consider approving the second addendum to the MOU that was reached with the district and SRTA collaborative bargaining representatives on March 11th regarding revisions to safe return to school guidelines. We have Assistant Superintendent Mike Shepard presenting the addendum to us. Hi, Mike.
Thank you, President Sheffield, Superintendent Trinnell, members of the board and community. This MOU is the second addendum, and I will really just recap the main changes. This brings us to being in line with the county and your recommendations of that masks are strongly recommended, and we will continue to provide KN95 masks to all bargaining unit members who request them. We will also provide the same said masks to schools. And it upholds the other agreements in section 4 of the original MOU number 5. And there is also a caveat in this addendum that says if Sonoma County Public Health reissues a mask requirement, and upon your approval of that requirement, that we would follow suit and shift back to masking. We all hope that doesn't occur, but we have that written in here. And there's a couple of other components of the MOU that expired as we were writing it because the county rescinded a health order. So just to give you an example of how quickly these things change, and SRTA did ratify this agreement at 85%. And so we're very grateful for their partnership, and we seek your approval of this MOU tonight. And with that, I'll entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Shepard. I see Trustee De La Cruz's hand raised.
Thanks. I just had a question about the availability of child-sized KN95 masks at school sites.
Yeah, so we, Mike, I'll take this if you don't mind.
Thank you.
So we just received a shipment, I believe, actually, I'll verify with Deputy Superintendent Edson, but do we have all 10,000 now?
Yeah, I believe the remaining portion of the 10,000 came in last Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
And so are they currently available at school sites, or when will they be available at school sites?
I would have to check on that, Director De La Cruz. I believe either some went out or are going out for availability at the school sites.
Other questions, trustee De La Cruz? I see trustee Manieri's hand raised.
Yeah, I had the same question and just have additional questions with regard to that same topic. Did we have availability of masks at the time that our statements went out to families that masks could be, they could be picked up at their school site offices? I feel like that caused some confusion at telling people that we had masks when maybe we didn't.
We did have, and we have been communicating that we've had masks available. It was the KN95 child size that was the difference, but we have masks and have been offering masks at our school sites.
Okay, so the surgical, so I'm assuming that means the surgical masks and not the
yes
KN95 masks.
Yes, and we have the child size of those as well.
Great. And is there a way to let us know or let the public know when we do have those KN95 masks, just so that, you know, if we're approached with questions about masks, we can let folks know what is accurate?
We will verify by tomorrow what the ETA is, if they haven't already been delivered, and I will absolutely let the board know so that you're prepared.
Thank you.
Follow up on that, Superintendent Trunell, is when those masks are available, how we message this out to the community. Will we be using this via the text message and all channels that we have available? I'm assuming we will be doing this.
Yes, we do a weekly message to our families that is COVID related, and so that we will make sure this detail is in there.
Great. And just another follow-up question was on the, the adequate, making sure that we will have an adequate child mask supply, masking supply in general, but also testing supplies. We can continue with tests, making sure that they're available for families as well.
I would have to double check. I believe that supplies that we have received through the county, we've deployed those tests directly to our schools based on timelines such as the deployment before spring break. So I don't think, I know that we purchase tests as well. I'm looking at Mr. Edson's box. So I do believe that we have some supply on hand as well.
We do have supply on hand. I don't have quantity, but perhaps Steve Mazzara at the next agenda item would have more detailed information on the tests that we still have. I just got word that we still have over 5,000 tests available.
Okay, and just making sure that they're available upon request. And I know that tests are a lot easier now to get a hold of, but we just want to make sure that we have, all of the tools necessary to keep our schools safe. Other questions from board members? Okay, this is an action item. We'll go to the public for comment.
If members of the public would like to comment on item E3, please raise your hand. Shelby Pryor would like to comment.
So all these in this discussion of talking about masking or unmasking and policies or not policies, I want to seriously know what considerations you've taken for anyone who negatively affects someone who makes a decision to not mask. What are the ramifications for people bullying people for deciding that they are not going to wear a mask? What are you going to do to the individual to make an example out of them when they do something discriminatory to someone who has taken a stance on something that they have decided and made a decision? Equity and equality, if you look up the definitions, means you're not going to be biased and you're going to do what's best for both parties. Let's practice what we preach. Let's not be like every Bible on the planet that describes hypocrites or actors. And let's fix this problem. Supply the masks, Give them to individuals who want them, and those who don't can tell y'all to kick rocks. Other than that, stop trying to tell us what we need or what we want. I don't tell you how to eat. Don't tell me how to breathe. Other than that, it seems pretty simple. You just are promoting reading books, right? Maybe you should read the EUA use authorization. Maybe you should read that this is under clinical trial still. Maybe you should start reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sheila Walker.
Good evening again, board and Superintendent Trunnell and members of the community. You know, we see this MOU. I want to remind the board that on September 15th, during a meeting, board meeting, that there were 4 parents, and I was one of them, that requested the original MOU to be pulled from a consent agenda item. There was a lot of conversation with all of you members of the board. We actually had 2 members, Director De La Cruz and Director Maneri, who asked some very good questions. And we as parents saw that the MOU should not have things such as masking is a requirement or is part of the MOU through the end of the school year. We told you this on September 15th. Some of you also said, we will have this on video if this comes back to get us. So again, 4 parents read your MOU and pointed this out to you. Number 2 on the MOU says the CDPH guidelines will be the primary guiding document to this agreement. Those are the same words that were used on September 15th as well. So why does this all of a sudden, you know, there have been a lot of changes. Some of you said how quickly things change. You know, what is accurate today could be different tomorrow. Why do we need all this other language, just as we brought up to you in September? Why can't we just simply follow the California Department of Public Health guidelines? Then we won't have to go this back and forth and cause more division between stakeholders within our district. I want to add that someone was asking about messaging. How are we going to message this out about, I don't know, masking, if masks are available? Messaging has been very, very, very unclear regarding masking, regarding what you all are saying as strongly recommended. It doesn't come with the sentence that it's mask optional or you may choose not to wear a mask. There are students who were bullied, shamed, segregated, taken outside, asked to go stand in the hallway because this MOU apparently hung up this board's decision last time. So Shelby actually had some very good points. I have document after document after document of like photos that I've taken of students all over this district who were treated unfairly, unkindly, and shamed because they decided not to wear a mask. So please be careful of what you put in your MOU. And sometimes maybe you should have a parent read it before you approve it.
Thank you. There are no other hands raised.
Thank you, Beth. All right, we're bringing this back to the board for discussion, further questions, or a motion. I see Trustee Fong.
I need to say this before I make a motion. Excuse me. We have heard loud and clear from our stakeholders that many, not all, but many were very unhappy about what happened with the masking and the decision not to follow the masking and the misunderstanding of not fully understanding an MOU. And that could be to our superintendent at another time or through her other channels of communication. But certainly we're really hearing that a lack of understanding, however we get communication out is really what's at the heart of this. I think folks are with us when they really understand things. And I know things are happening quickly and we get conflicting information everywhere we go. And it's never definitive, what are guidelines, and we have 40 districts in our county, and we're getting a lot of different things from our state and from our county. So it's really a moving target for us. And then again, it's a moving target at the sites too. Somebody mentioned earlier, I think very astutely, that principals are interpreting it differently and teachers are interpreting it differently. And you know, we have a big workforce of 1,600 people. It's difficult. So I just continue to ask for folks forgiveness and for patience and for grace, because I know that every single person in our management team, staff, teachers, everybody, CSEA, everyone is doing their darndest. They are doing their very, very best, and they're exhausted as well. And they don't know the clear way as well. And we're just trying to stay together on top of it. So I just thank everyone for paying attention. Those parents who are really reading the MOU and paying attention to what's happening. Thank you, because that helps a lot. And I just wanted to thank everybody and to say that we're in this, and it's rough and it's tough and it continues. So with that, I'd like to make a motion, if that's okay.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I move approval of a second addendum memorandum of understanding reached with SRCS and SRTA regarding safe return to school guidelines.
Second.
All right, moved by trustee Fong, seconded by trustee Medina. Looking for a vote.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Fong.
Aye.
Director Medina.
Aye.
Director Manieri. Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director McCormick.
Aye.
Director Flores.
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Agenda item E4, action item, COVID update prevention program and COVID-19 handbook revision. The board will review the Cal OSHA COVID-19 prevention program update and proposed alignment with the district's COVID-19 safety handbook. We have Superintendent Trunell being joined by Steve Mazzara and Jonathan Jones, our COVID coordinator. Turning it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President Sheffield, members of the board, our staff and community. We bring forward to you tonight, based on recent guidance adjustments, in a revised version of our handbook with a presentation that Mr. Mazzara will share his screen, and we will go through some information with you.
Thank you, Superintendent Trunell. We have seen this a few times, everybody. And of course, as always, thank you very much for the patience, the work you've done, the pivoting that we have all had to do, not just only as board members and policymakers, but as our staff, our administrative staff, our teaching staff, and our classified staff. We hope that this is the last COVID handbook adjustment we have to make for this year, because as we've noted humorously amongst ourselves, COVID goes away on June 30th, according to our calculations. As always, forgive me here to move forward. Let's go. As always, we kind of talk about the latest topics of things we're discussing. So we'll talk momentarily about the recension of the mask requirements for staff and students. We will talk about the revisions of the vaccination mandates, the mandatory testing mandate changes for staff. We'll discuss vaccination requirements for non-paid volunteers. We'll just give you an update briefly about pool testing updates and a discussion about extracurricular activities and events as we talk about the things that are happening in the springtime for us. As we've done each time, we kind of give you a breakdown of where we are on the status of kind of the context of things. So you've seen this graph before, but I wanted to highlight just something in this graph. This is data taken straight from the state and county, I think through the Press Democrat, if I recall. But I want you to note the red line and the purple line. So that's our county data, and that's not school data, that's county data. And that's a quick analysis of vaccination, COVID positive cases. And red line is the unvaccinated rate of adults and students in Sonoma County, and the purple is the vaccinated rate. And I highlight that because there is conversations, and I'm not exactly where the final science is on it, but there's data here, obviously local data, that really suggests the importance of vaccinations. And one of the things we break down further is just the discrepancies that happen amongst the race and ethnicities. And as we know, sub-demographics in our district are very important as a discussion. This is a quick sample of some of the sub-demographics that we're talking about those same rates. And we'll note there, it's a little blurry, but there are really disproportionate highlights among American Indian, Alaska Native rates, a rate of 18.96, as opposed to the case rates for others that is about 8 or 7%. We'll also want to just take note, our Hispanic Latino rates are higher. And so those are important features as we discuss the pockets of this that relate to our ability to roll out, safety protocols and actions, because those pockets differ across our schools. This is just another little quick snapshot of overall countywide trends, discussing positivity test rates, hospitalizations, and just, I think it's important to understand and note that this is still, although it's an Omicron variant that has less severe symptoms and less hospitalizations, I think it's still important to understand that this does affect people to the extreme of 54 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19 just in this last surge. So it is really important to keep our eye, that this is a really important medical crisis in our community. I'll show you data in a moment, like we have all the time, of our school testing data, but this is a sample of all schools. It very well parallels what we have in our school system, but this is case data of the TK through 12 from all school sites that we submit to public health on a weekly basis. It's a little unclear. I like our graphic a little bit better, but staff is obviously labeled in there as well. And we'll show you our rates in a moment. Further on the breakdown, again, this is another kind of place to really look at the inequality that this pandemic has applied across our county, of course, nationwide and worldwide. You'll see that there are again, huge discrepancies, 3 times the rate of cases in the American Indian and Alaska Native. There are obviously high proportions, other places as well, Hispanic, Latino, and amongst the white demographic. So obviously there are differences and nuances. We are tremendously aware as we provide data to the board to make sure we're bringing those sub-stories and other contexts for the things that we see in our community. This is part of our weekly posting. Board will remember in community that we've been posting this weekly throughout the surge as we go. It's really important to see that there are just differences in the level of cases that have come through. High school has obviously been hit hardest by this. You'll see staff in green and our elementary and middle as appropriate. And this is just a table on the same graphic. And again, these are all posted weekly for us at our COVID website. We're going to discuss then just what are those changes. I think it's pretty clear in the conversation, public comments, and in the item before us that we moved effectively from the Department of Public Health on 3/1. We had the option to become strongly recommended for staff and students, regardless of vaccination. And we officially became, as previously discussed in the item before this, on 3/28, we came to the same district-wide position that it's strongly recommended, and that obviously aligns with our Sonoma County guidelines, our CDPH guidelines, and of course, our MOU with our labor partners. Our vaccination requirements. This is an important change for our employees. Of course, there are no vaccination requirements for students at this time. That is still something that's potentially going through the legislature, but we don't have anything that we can bring to the board for any updates at this point. But effective 3/7, and now implementing on 4/1, employees no longer have to be tested twice a week if they are unvaccinated. They went back to the pre-January mandate of once a week. And another very important factor is the county had requested higher than the standard from the state, that they wanted booster status to also fit into that. So through January and February, we were beginning to work with employees to identify any employee who is not just fully vaccinated, also had to be boosted if eligible. So that requirement was recently rescinded, and we have reflected it, of course, in our handbook and the CPP you have tonight. One of the areas that we'll expect some conversation on from the board, and this is kind of the conversation of what's the floor and what are we able to do above that. We kind of organize that in the three sectors that we're describing here: staff, students, and volunteers. Just to be clear, volunteers would be anyone that comes and works with their student and child on a regular basis. It also, by definition from Cal OSHA, is someone who comes on in a very limited standpoint and works like in the snack bar. That was a specific example. So right now, you'll see that we are proposing to recommend that volunteers are fully vaccinated. Obviously, what that would do is that would align with our staff, not require the booster, but we are obviously up to that conversation. If we would like to go there, the board would like to go there. We are still bringing the recommendations per CDPH and County of Sonoma that testing is only required for staff. Boosters for staff and students are recommended but not required. And then in the testing, as you know, we'll talk about in the next slide, we have voluntary pool testing. We are not requiring students to test. We are not requiring staff to test, only if they are unvaccinated, not fully vaccinated, or decline to state their vaccination status. That sample of pool testing, we currently have about 5,600 students that are signed up for the program. You recall at the last meeting, we went to be after spring break to go every other week. So from now till the end of the year, we are going to be continuing voluntary pool testing of students. We're at an every other rate of testing, which can change. We could either go follow, if trends continue to go down, we could make a change and adjustment there. We have no plans at this time. Or if cases bounce back up, we can very quickly pivot and go back to a weekly testing. I also want to make you aware that we are continuing to use the Lewis location, Lewis Early Learning Academy, for afternoon testing. And that's a voluntary asymptomatic. We are continuing to partner with Sonoma County at Lewis on Mondays and Fridays. And that's both asymptomatic and symptomatic testing. That has been going on since January, and that will continue. So the quick conversation about extracurricular activities. Primarily, extracurricular activities follow the restrictions at a school site unless the venue that we are moving towards or taking the field trip to has different rules. And then, of course, if we're at that location, we have to follow those rules. So one of the considerations we have there in red is would like to recommend fully vaccinated and boosted if someone is going on a overnight field trip as a chaperone, as a volunteer, or that they provide a negative test, let's say the rapid test, 24 hours in advance. And of course, the reason that is different than perhaps a regular come into the classroom volunteer is the context and the confines of an overnight trip, much more access and around students. So we feel like we want to put that extra layer of protection in there. Guidelines have been widely opened up, as you can tell. The indoor capacity is limited only if it's under 1,000. We generally don't get those limitations indoor at our activities, either concerts or indoor sports games. Our outdoor capacity is limited under 10,000, and that should allow us for our graduation ceremonies to really not have any of those kind of restrictions that we had in previous years. Just a couple other quick bullets. We want to watch out for food, and we're still going to try to keep serving food outdoors. As an example, we've been working with high schools as they start developing their prom. And every one of the cases, they are trying to serve food in an outside location, just keep that ventilation and things going. That's not a requirement from the county, but that's a best practice that we are moving forward on. And then, of course, we are still promoting vaccinations. As I previously mentioned, vaccinations do indicate have an ability to help us not become COVID positive. And so we are still encouraging students and families to join us in the upcoming vaccination clinics. There are many more vaccination clinics throughout Sonoma County. These are the ones that we are co-sponsoring. And so we will continue to publish these, as Superintendent Turnell mentioned, in our kind of information that goes out. And with that, I'll stop sharing and take questions from the board.
Sorry, Ed, we can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Okay, questions from the board. Sorry about that. Trustee Manieri?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, but they're all related to one bigger question. My question is, what is our plan in the event of a surge of COVID? We're seeing, right, like this new variant become a little bit more widespread in Sonoma County. That seems to also be a little bit more contagious. So how are we preparing for this? And how is any of that being reflected in this plan? Yeah, I'd just like to know if we're like ordering more masks to have on hand, or more tests, or if we're stocking up on anything just to be prepared in the event that there is a surge and that we need to take some measures.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is we are available to pivot. I mentioned just briefly on the voluntary testing. We still have staff in place. We can pivot to weekly testing like we were doing during the surge at any time. The masks, we promised to get an actual real number if there's more than that. But we know, as an example, we were holding back masks for prom. And so there are a number of masks that are going to still be available that we are not requiring them for prom. We may need, if we do have a surge like that, we may need some additional help from the state for more tests. And Superintendent Turnell mentioned we were given some from the county through the state recently before spring break. So we may need some help in our testing rapids of that. However, everything else, we are ready to pivot back. Obviously, if there's a change, so if the county declares us to go back into required masking, we're able to do that. Like anything, we'll have to have conversations about that with our labor partners, kind of pulling that all together, what that really means. The Cal OSHA or CDPH can go back to double the weekly testing for unvaccinated employees. So just like we had recensions in the last 3 weeks, those can simply go back in place. We have all our activities ready and available. The ordering of masks, as we just mentioned, are still there. We over-ordered things, unclear on whether or not we would need required masks to the end of the year. So we think we're in pretty good shape, knock on wood, that we have a second surge to this. But everything from our protocols, our safety protocols, our isolation tents, we haven't taken any of those things down. Those are all operational and can continue if another surge begins to come forward.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess I would really just like to know, I would hate for us to be in a situation where we're acting too late, right? Like we know that surges, they come and they come quickly. And by the time that we need to really respond, sometimes it's too late. And so I'm just wondering, really, what measures are we taking to prepare? Like I'm so glad to hear that we can pivot quickly, but what are we really doing to prepare? And I don't know if that's more of like an operations question, but I would really love to know that we have a pretty concrete plan for that.
Yeah, go ahead, Superintendent.
I was just going to add that given what our former guidance and handbooks have been, I think we have the plan written. It would just be a matter of how quickly we act upon it, depending on the situation. If it would be required where I could use my emergency authority to implement it immediately, like the next day with a bunch of communications, there would be ripple effect of various kinds of meetings that would have to follow to solidify those things. But I think if we needed to turn something on a dime, it really is about communication to ensure that there's no confusion. And then also that we would help people to understand, what does this mean? And we are prepared to do that if we have to.
Thank you.
Can I also add one thing, Superintendent Chanel?
Maybe, no, yes, of course.
Thank you. Director Manieri, to your point, the ordering of masks that we were talking about was specific to KN95 and child-sized masks. It wasn't in reference to, we were down to our last 4,000 masks, right? And we were trying to restock. We still have hundreds of thousands of surgical type masks in the warehouse. We still have enough hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies to take us well into next year under our previous protocols, right? And so as some protocols have relaxed, that will leave more in the event that we have to, as Director Mazzara said, pivot and go back to a different standard in our schools. We have all of that still available. The child-sized masks were specific for KN95 at the request of student or parents that would want one.
Something to add, Mr. Jones? And you were on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and all of that I think is good, very good response to what Ms. Manieri was asking. But I think it's also something a little more that you may have been wanting, specific to the degree to which we have our ear to the ground, I think. And Superintendent Turnell mentioned that communication is key. And that's very much the case, but also to the point in a granular way that we keep a focus on where the signs are that a spike or a surge is pending. And so part of that communication that we have in place is personnel at the school sites, and where events are taking place and where students are active and the community gathers. We have personnel in place with protocols also in place for things like pull testing and contact tracing mechanisms, so that we can be aware almost at a moment's notice when a shift in numbers seems to call our attention to it. And that is something that we've now been working through with protocols that are working really, really well. And we have almost daily communication with administrators at all the sites that are keeping up to date with these latest trends and how the numbers are moving back and forth, so that we can respond within 24 hours to implement strategies to mitigate more exposure than that would warrant a spike. So it's almost to the point of not just having things ready to respond when things get bad, but also being responsive immediately when it looks as if maybe it can get there, and we want to be prepared to stop it or to mitigate that right away. So communication very much is key, but it is even more granular than I think most people are aware.
All right.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I really appreciate that reassurance, and I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Trustee Flores?
Yeah, spreading my questions here. So a couple of questions. In slide 12, I don't know if I might have missed this, but when did we change the required designation for fully vaccination for a staff person to be fully vaccinated? Did we change it? I thought it was recommended, and then with weekly testing. Are we changing that to something else? But I don't remember reading the update.
Yeah, what always been until the middle of January is Cal OSHA had always all this year, if excuse me, staff were not fully vaccinated, then they had to test weekly. So what changed in the emergency Cal OSHA updates were that then if they weren't boosted, they added booster to that, and they would have to test twice a week. So that's what we never implemented that. We were getting ready to that, and then it was rescinded. So staff, if that's what we're referring to, Director Flores, staff had always had to, if they were not fully vaccinated or declined to identify their vaccination status, we're required to do weekly testing.
Right, but as of March 28th, now we are according to slide number 12, we are now requiring staff to be vaccinated.
And we're not. In lieu of that, they have to test weekly. So,
Okay,
so that
well,
I'm sorry if that's not clear.
That slide is a little bit misleading, just so you know, okay?
Thank you.
And then two, I think this is something that Coordinator Jones-James mentioned, having, all the masks and stuff in warehouses does not necessarily translate into implementation in the school setting. Okay, so I didn't hear anything about what at the site level, what does that look like at the site level? I mean, all I'm hearing is that it's at a warehouse somewhere, right? So if we were to have a surge, and do we have a plan in action as to how are these going to be distributed quickly enough so everyone has access to them, or are we just going to keep them in a warehouse somewhere?
Well, I think we're going to continue our notification that, they're available at any time. They're still in teachers' classrooms. They're still in the front office of every time you walk in, can you get a mask? So we'll make sure that, everyone understands masks are still there and available. In terms of the keeping, I think Mr. Jones, you used keeping your ear to the ground. We still have to receive and report to public health every week any cases that are coming through to us. So, and then there are weekly meetings with public health amongst all the schools. So we're gonna, hear that immediately as that comes through. We haven't changed any of our sanitation requirements, like I said, hand wiping, anything like that, right? Only the mask side of, if you remember, one of the graphics was like a multi-layered Swiss cheese thing. So that's just one example that's kind of pulled off at this point. All those other things are in place. And our pivot would be, first of all, I think, awareness, information about our cases happening at a school site, conversations with Sonoma County. It's likely it wouldn't be just a Santa Rosa City Schools thing. Sonoma County could identify at any point, we are changing our mandate as of this date to go that way, right? And then we would be ready to, communicate, have the conversations with our community and our labor partners. Here's what we're going back to. Here's the language we did, a month ago, and we're going to implement this effective at a certain date per Superintendent Trinell's, emergency abilities.
Okay, I just want to be able to, how you mentioned pivot, I want to quickly pivot in case we need, those supplies. And that's all. I just want to make sure that
I think
it ever happens again, right? I just want to make sure we're ready.
I don't think the supply, I think Mr. Edson and I are understanding, we don't think the supply issue is going to be an issue. The pivot is going to be around communication, understanding, how we roll that out to the community, to our labor partners, to our students, that we're shifting. That for us on a logistics side would be the only thing that prevents us from going tomorrow.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, Director Flores, we didn't collect anything from the sites. The sites still have supply available to them through routine checks with our custodians. They request more as needed and it's delivered. My point was simply that if we need to ramp back up with additional supplies, we don't necessarily have to order them. We just have to distribute more to make the school site to make sure the school site has enough if their individual supply has diminished, right? So we're still continuing on with that. I just wanted it to be clear that we do have supplies available in the event that we do need to take a different path in the future.
Trustee McCormick?
I just had a quick question about our students that had signed up that originally had signed up for pool testing. I assume many of them are not eligible for pool testing anymore because they've had COVID in the last 90 days. Have those numbers been adjusted? Has that been communicated to the sites?
We have a tracking mechanism that shows, who have to be out for the 90 days. And those pretty much begin to expire. Obviously, the surge was the end of January. and then into February. So those 90 days begin to expire right about now in April. And so the conversation when we had those families is they voluntarily withdrew themselves from the pool for obvious reasons. We know those families. We're going to reiterate that it may be time for you to voluntarily come back into the pool.
Mm.
So since it's a voluntary pool, they will be eligible. So we have a way to communicate to them through an email that we could send. You are now eligible to volunteer back in the pool. I have to check with Mr. Jones about whether or not we have to have them revalidate, like affirm that I want to participate in the pool, but we'll be able to handle that. And so when we pull them out of the pool and we had those conversations in January and February, we were saying, when you're ready to come back to the pool after your 90 days, please resubmit, so you can come back into the pool.
Okay, so that's all still voluntary, whether they come back or not?
It is.
And then when you get that information, do you communicate that to the sites so that they're organized and they know how many numbers they have?
We do. That happens every 3 or 4 days before the distribution of that school's day. We close the list. We see who's applied online. We print out, teacher rosters per classroom as they're doing it. And so that changes and fluctuates, obviously. And this is a good example of how somebody can get added to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You're on mute, President Sheffield.
Man, that is twice now. Just a question on pool testing and not necessarily related to the handbook. But one of the slides had indicated that there were 10 positive cases the week before spring break. And I'm just curious, was this a decline from the previous week, or was it about on par?
Mr. Jones, you might have in the last couple of weeks, I have some data obviously from the surge.
Yeah.
You may have some data to Mr. Jones in the last couple of weeks.
Sorry, I'm trying to get used to this screen here. Not used to it at all. Yeah, we've had, since the surge, we've had a significant decline week to week by about half of positive results from the pool testing, down to the point where we hit that point of 10, which itself was also a lower. I believe the week before was 11. So suddenly that wasn't a half anymore, but it was also low enough where it was still maintaining part of that positive trajectory we've been on for the last month, and still a very good sign. Fingers crossed it stays that way, though. We'll see.
Thank you. Sorry, my kid's bringing me a nice little treat. You can... Sorry about that.
That voice is amazing. That voice.
And then, another question that I had was just around, the little bit of discussion around the prom. And I'm just wondering about plans for any additional safety protocols or testing before prom. Is that something that school sites are thinking about?
We did that analysis right before spring break because as you can imagine, schools were really wondering. They had booked their venues. They had had contact with their venues of what those requirements were. And then once the county came out with the no restrictions or restrictions based on the venues, we kind of went with that. And, one of the things we were prepared to do was do rapid testing 24 hours before the event. In our analysis, we talked to other districts and no other district was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I know, board, that's been a concern that we're doing something that others aren't. As you guys all probably know, we share, families come to each other's proms in different districts. So we thought that would to be consistent. And so because the county was not requiring it, because our districts were not requiring it, we made the decision we will not require it. They will be available. We will still be looking for symptoms at the door and monitoring students. And we will have rapids available at those proms for any protocols or anyone that seems to suggest they could have a fever or something that might be expression of one of those symptoms.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any additional questions? Okay, we go to public comment.
If any members of the public would like to comment on item E4, please raise your hand at this time. Sheila Walker would like to comment.
Hello, board. I hope as well that this is the last safety handbook updates that we have to see for this school year. So for everyone, just again, a couple of questions. I just wonder, like, is our district too big that we can't communicate accurate information? Because our district regarding the mask debacle, we were the only district out of the 40 districts where there was confusion. It just needed to be simply sent out that and clearly communicated that masking was no longer required, but strongly recommended. But I will even add the example that in LA, the UTLA sent out a simple text saying just that, almost that similar language, and also letting their teachers know that they could not separate, treat differently, harass basically children and make a hostile learning environment. We just passed an MOU for our labor partners that, they clearly outline that it's for their teaching and learning environment. We want our students, and our students should feel like they're in a safe learning environment and not in a hostile learning environment themselves. So I'm just going to backtrack again on the masking. March 1st, the state said it would no longer be required. Coming up on the 14th, your board met on the 9th and said to align to the 14th with the state, and then somehow magically on the 16th, communication, which was very confusing. But I will tell you that parents understood from those of us that watched your meeting that masks should have been optional. So I don't know, like how we are the biggest district, but we were the only district out of 40 who seemed to have so much confusion at our elementary and our secondary campuses, where little children to middle schoolers and high schoolers had this feedback. So I guess it's just maybe there needs to be more simplified communication sent out. The teacher that actually said something to my son, of course, I reported it to the principal. He left me a voicemail saying he would apologize to my son and that he had not read the information all the way down. That's their job. Don't harass my kid if you're not going to read your information, and don't embarrass a child in front of a classroom full of middle schoolers because you didn't read your information.
Thank you. Next comment is Shelby Pryor.
Hello, board. We keep going around and around in a circle on this matter. It seems pretty clear. Individuals should be able to choose what's best for their health. You can put all the facts and figures you want to in front of me with whatever falsified science you have. You can't even determine what boys or girls are at this point. So I really don't want to talk about your science. What I do want to talk about is, what can you do to make children not be bullied by adults and people who are lemmings in their community? The people who are our leaders are the ones who go against the current. They don't travel with it. Every one of you claims to be a leader up there. And some of you I manage really feel genuine about your stance. I told you in the beginning of this, I had some nice words for you and some not so nice words. But I can still keep it very professional and cut like a razor blade with my words. Each one of you wake up in the morning and look at yourself and act like you wear a mask in every situation you've been in since you woke up today. I'm sure you haven't. You're forcing our children and people to get vaccinated against their will. You're telling people to choose between their jobs and their livelihood. Someone who works amongst you, who I love very much and I care about, you tried to mandate their life and make it harder for them. That's what got me started on all this to begin with. I'm tired of having to ask you guys for freedom. We don't have to ask anymore. Parents, if you want to protest these individuals, I will make my information public, and we can make this very clear to them. No child should be bullied for standing up against those who are sheep.
Thank you. Next is Catherine Howell.
Hi, good evening again, everyone. I do have a question about Executive Director Mazzara's presentation. Slide 12 specifically, there is a chart that does seem to indicate that it is required that staff are fully vaccinated, or it indicates that the request of this board is to make a movement towards staff be fully vaccinated. And so that is very confusing to me. That certainly is not certainly not the Sonoma County Public Health Guideline or the CDPH, or in fact reality. So I was hoping that could be clarified and fixed. We are aware that, you know, teachers, all staff members who have chosen to not declare their vaccinated status are tested once a week, but that does not mean that they are required to be vaccinated. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Next is Deanna Oliveris.
It wouldn't be myself if I didn't start without a joke. I can't believe Shelby did not take up this whole 3 minutes. You guys are probably like ecstatic about that. Anyways, so I have a few things to say. I think when Steve was doing the presentation, whoever was doing it, they mentioned something about, excuse my voice, Native American and Alaskan population being like 3% higher of like COVID or unvaccinated. And when you guys do these reports, I feel like they're so statistical that you don't really look deeper into knowing why. You assume that because a minority group isn't vaccinated or their kids aren't vaccinated, they don't have access. And it was just kind of bewildering to me because, you know, most Native Americans get free health care and they have access to vaccines. My children are Native American and they have free health care and they have access to vaccines. But maybe it's a cultural perspective. Maybe they don't want to get a vaccine. Maybe they take a holistical approach. Maybe their religion and their culture, you know, looks upon nature to heal them and not a man-made experimental drug. And I just feel like sometimes I wish you guys and everybody would just kind of open your eyes to why things are happening. It's not necessarily like an inequality in some aspects. Another thing is N95 masks. You guys keep talking about this last few minutes, and they're not even safe for our children to wear for more than 2 hours. And they need to be properly fitted, and they're one-time use for 160 to 120 minutes. And every time you touch them, you're supposed to replace them. And I highly doubt our children are going to be, or anyone's children is wearing them properly. So that's just kind of blowing smoke. It's really frustrating to me. And another thing I was excited to see this week, teachers on campus weren't wearing masks, principals weren't wearing masks. And I think that just solidifies the fact that they were ready as well. They might not be the ones that show up like the few of us every month or every 2 times a month to complain to you guys about it. But the fact that there's not parents in line in front of their school protesting that they want masks on their kids, they're not pulling their kids because the kids aren't made to wear masks. Like we were pulling our kids, we were protesting, we were showing up. Parents that feel opposite aren't doing that. So just because there's only a few of us that are the squeaky wheel doesn't mean that we're not talking for people that aren't bold enough to speak up or can't speak up because, you know, they may lose their job. So I again, like I said earlier, I really wish you guys, I feel like I wish you would just open your mind and see things and have empathy from what other people are coming from.
Thank you. And there are no other hands raised for this item.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for discussion, further questions or a motion. Oh, I see Superintendent Trunell, I'm sorry.
I do want to make a correction, and I appreciate what is being brought up. And I hope that I wasn't the culprit in my attempt to assist with the presentation, but it is correct. So under the slides 12 for staff, under the row of fully vaccinated, that should say recommended. We did not require that staff be vaccinated. It should say recommended, and then required is testing if they are unvaccinated. So that wouldn't change, but we were not trying to do a sleight of hand. We do want to continue with our current guidance, and that is that staff either be fully vaccinated, and if they're not, that they would be required to test. I think it's once a week now.
Thank you. So what does that mean in terms of if we approve this? Could we approve?
So you're not changing anything about our current expectations for vaccination. What we are looking at is to adjust the language for volunteers. That's really the focus of that slide. Initially, we had required that volunteers be fully vaccinated and boosted if eligible. And what we want to do is move with the county and reduce that, if you will, to being recommended and for fully vaccinated, and obviously recommended for boosted if they're eligible. But we do want to add here that if they are unvaccinated, this is an addition, that they would test once a week, especially if they are an ongoing volunteer for us. What we are finding is that we have many volunteers who have been regular volunteers in the past who have been completely shut out from assisting at school sites or community projects at schools, et cetera, because they have not been fully vaccinated. So we want to give them the same treatment that we would for overnight trips or other places where there's exposure around children.
Thank you, Superintendent Trunell. Trustee Medina.
Thank you. Just really quick, Superintendent Trunell, when you said we do want to add, that means something that's already included in what's being presented, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then I would like to move that we approve the updates to the COVID prevention program and the revisions to the COVID-19 handbook as presented.
I second that.
All right, moved by Trustee Medina, seconded by Trustee Fong. We're ready for a vote.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you again, Executive Director Mazzara and Mr. Jones, our coordinator. We are going to move on to agenda item E5, another action item, approval of resolution number 2021-2244 for the sale of real property, the Fir Ridge property. The board will consider approval of this resolution authorizing the sale, commonly known as the Fir Ridge property. We have Deputy Superintendent Edson to present for us.
Thank you. Jim Traber is also on his way over as well. If there's any questions about this. Good evening, President Sheffield, members of the board, Superintendent Trunell. We are bringing forward resolution 2122-44, approving the sale of the Fir Ridge property. The resolution would set this in motion with the sale agreement that is included as part of the resolution with the terms outlined within it. The sale price for this property that we're entering into is $3 million. A timeline will begin if approved, an execution of this sale agreement to provide documents to Christofferson Builders, as well as a due diligence period for them with noted deposits into an escrow account at inception and at the conclusion of the due diligence period, with an expected close around October of this year. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, or Mr. Traber as well, President Sheffield.
Great, thank you. Questions from the board? No questions? You're kidding me. Great. So just you said the offer was 3 million. It was appraised below that. That's my understanding. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Well, this is an action item. We'll go to public comment.
If there are any members of the public who'd like to comment on item E5, please raise your hand at this time. There are no hands raised.
All right, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion, further questions, or a motion.
This is a long time coming, so I'm really happy to move for approval of the proposed sale agreement.
Second.
Second, Stephanie.
Okay, so it was moved by Trustee De La Cruz, seconded by Trustee Manieri. Ready for a vote?
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Thank you for everybody who worked on this. Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Yes.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, long time coming indeed. Motion passes. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Deputy Superintendent Edson, and thank you, Mr. Traber. Very, very happy with this.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to our F items. Now we had polled 2 items, but we just needed some clarification. Stephanie had meant to poll item F8. It's my understanding, so we just want to clarify that, and we'd also polled item F7. Is that we're clear on that?
Yes.
The Trustee McCormick's hand raised.
So I would like to move to approve items F2 through 6 and 9.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, moved by Trustee McCormick to approve items F2 through 6 and 9, seconded by Trustee Flores. Ready for vote?
President Sheffield, should that be F2 through F4? Because I believe we pulled F5, the contract as well.
That was the confusion. The F5, I believe, was meant to be F8.
Okay, thank you. Could you repeat the call in the second?
Yes, it was, the motion was to approve items F2 through 6 and 9, motioned by Trustee McCormick, seconded by Trustee Flores.
Thank you. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director McCormick.
Aye.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Manieri.
Aye.
Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director Fong.
Aye.
Director Medina.
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye. Okay, so we had pulled item F7, and we had pulled item F8. Do we want to discuss these? Or just
Yes.
pull? Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, President Sheffield. I will speak on F7 and then hand it to Mr. Shepard, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, to explain. But there is a discrepancy in some of the schedules, and because of recent direction that we have received and the fact that the items were on the agenda tonight, we figured we would be able to provide that clarity, that adjustment, and then ask the board for approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Sheffield, Superintendent Trinnell, members of the board, and Santa Rosa staff and public. This is these salary schedules were before you for approval pending a review from CalPERS, Public Employer Retirement System. And they did an audit, and we had several schedules that were not in compliance. And so tonight, we had some additional work done that we're not able to update prior to after we had published. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can highlight those discrepancies and seek your approval on those. So what you see before you are the updated attachments, not the ones in the packet. And they're very minor changes. What you saw in the original in your packet before you is at the very top, classified 12-month pay rate based on 260 days. It should have read 261 days. So that is the change. All the other changes in red were the recommended changes. And it's really just how we classify our salary schedules so that they line up with the CalPERS guidelines. Also, the change, because it changed to 261 here at the bottom, the average work month changed to the calculation changed from 173.33 hours to 174. So on that schedule, those are the two changes that were not indicated in your packet.
Okay.
As well, you'll see on the confidential employee, the only change here is 261. Moving forward to the scheduled management, you'll see here, same thing, change of 261. To supervisory and unrepresented, 261. I believe that is the only change. And in the unscheduled management, we had to pull out classified deputy superintendent, assistant soup, and indicate that it's also calculated on a 261 day work year. So with that, those are the changes, and these per your approval, these slides will be added to the minutes to reflect the updated. So the request is that you adopt these schedules with the time base of 261 days.
All right, board, are we all clear on that? Uh-oh. There we go. I froze for a minute. Are we all clear on that? Do we have any questions, clarifying questions? Okay, seeking a motion.
I move approval of the revised 2021-2022 confidential CSEA 75 schedule management, supervisory and unscheduled management and working professional salary schedules for CalPERS compliance audit.
Second.
Moved by trustee Fong, seconded by trustee McCormick. Thank you. Ready for a vote?
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Fong.
Aye.
Director McCormick.
Aye.
Director Manieri.
Aye.
Director De La Cruz.
Aye.
Director Flores.
Aye.
Director Medina.
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. All right, the other consent item we had pulled was item F8, and trustee Medina, I'm sorry, Manieri. You guys are right next to each other here.
That's fine. I only wanted to pull this item just to really uplift it and to celebrate it. I'm really excited for this project at Comstock Middle School. I think that the students are going to have a really amazing time, and I really hope that there's some sort of community event for the unveiling of this mural. I would love to see the end product. So I'm really excited, and also kind of just wanted to be the one to make the motion to accept this because I love it so much. So I would love to move the approval of the Raíces collective contract for Hillary.
Second.
All right, for your own selfish reasons, Stephanie has made the motion for approval of Raisa Collective contract for Hilliard Comstock Middle School and seconded by Trustee Medina. We are ready for a vote.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores.
I think we needed to go and have public comments before the vote, but
President Sheffield.
Aye. These were consent items. All right, the motion passes. We are on our G items, approval of minutes. G1, approval of minutes of the regular board meeting held on March 9th.
I'd like to move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on March 9th.
Second.
All right, motion from Trustee De La Cruz and seconded by Trustee Fong.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Agenda item G2, approval of minutes of the special board meeting held on March 11th.
I move approval of those minutes, please. March 11th, 2022.
Second.
All right, moved by Trustee Fong, seconded by Trustee De La Cruz, seeking approval of the March 11th minutes. Ready for a vote.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Abstain.
President Sheffield.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Moving on to G3, approval of minutes of the special board meeting held on March 16th, the continuance of the March 9th regular board meeting.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
All right, moved by Trustee Fong, seconded by Trustee Medina. Ready for a vote.
Director Beard, Director Beard,
I don't see her.
Aye.
thank you. Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Medina,
Aye.
Director Manieri,
Aye.
Director De La Cruz,
Aye.
Director McCormick,
Aye.
Director Flores,
Aye.
President Sheffield.
Aye, motion passes. Wow, March was a busy month. Okay, we are on to requests for information, board member requests. Any requests? All right, seeing none. Information items. Items are listed in the agenda packet. And let's see, before we adjourn, Superintendent Trunell, any last minute announcements?
No last minute announcements. Just want to really appreciate everyone that we heard from tonight and from the board and just the thoughtful process this evening.
Oh, thank you. All right, well, this is what my son brought. He interrupted me in mid sentence, mid thought. So he brought me a little early dessert. So I'm very excited to get to that. Well, thank you all, and we'll adjourn. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.